with the mention of the awards and so on. But to me, I have to say that the greatest award I've ever had is to reach across to the younger generation. And we've been doing a lot of that via our theatre and our storytelling. And I know even if sometimes the children are too small to understand what we're doing, what they hear stays with them. And at some point or the other in their lives, it will add up. They will be able to join the dots, because I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, I saw several and heard several performances, which at that time didn't mean much to me. But as I grew older and I encountered those texts again, I realized how much it had mattered that I'd heard these when I was young. So
Just a second, before we begin, can you guys see properly there? Are you okay? Yeah, because you are stuck behind this camera. There's empty seats here.
there are
in
empty
case.
seats on that side if you want to go. Anyway, so my wife Ratna and I have been doing theatre for almost 50 years now. And of course, we began with English plays because both of us were students of English literature. I was a student of literature, she was a student of sociology, but very interested in literature. And then gradually our interest shifted to performing in our own language, which is Hindustani, which I consider, which many people, whether they like to call it Urdu or to call it Hindi, I believe it's just one language, which is Hindustani. And we tapped the writing of several eminent authors in both Urdu and in Hindi. Munshi Premchand, you may have heard the name, Krishan Chandra, Sadat Hasan Manto, Ismat Chughtai. And we have also done stories by Khalil Gibran, Stephen Leacock. And today what we are going to read out to you are two very short stories by James Thurber, a celebrated American humorist of the previous century, who had a great love of animals and wrote a whole book which is called James Thurber's Dogs. So these are two stories by James Thurber, and then apart from that, we will be reciting two poems by an Indian author called Vikram Seth, whose name you might be familiar with. The author of his most famous book is A Suitable Boy. Now, the reason for performing this to children is to convey to them that a story is not always something with a happy ending. And a poem is not only a set of lines which rhyme. There is often a subtext, and by subtext I mean the meaning that lies behind the words, which the listener must figure out on his own. The subtext doesn't state things straight out. It implies certain things which people have to join the dots themselves in order to understand. The poems, too, are about animals, and I think it is high time we try to understand the animal kingdom. And Vikram Seth's book, Beastly Tales, is an anthology of poems about animals in which he has animals who behave like human beings. And it's very amusing at times, kind of frightening at times, to imagine what would happen if animals began to behave like humans. Anyway, time to begin. So the first story by James Thurber is a story you must have all heard in your nurseries about Red Riding Hood. But this is a slightly different take on Red Riding Hood.
Are we audible at the back clearly? Are you being able to hear us? You are, right?
All right.
Okay, just
Wonderful.
checking. And most of you understand English, at least a little bit, don't you? Great. So just, it'll be nice to have you listen to us now.
All right. This story is called The Little Girl and the Wolf. One afternoon, a big wolf waited in a dark forest for a little girl to come along, carrying a basket of food for her grandmother. Finally, a little girl did come along, and she was carrying a basket of food. Are you carrying that basket to your grandmother? Asked the wolf. The little girl said yes, she was. So the wolf asked her where her grandmother lived. And the little girl told him. And he disappeared into the wood. When the little girl opened the door of her grandmother's house, she saw that there was somebody in the bed with a nightcap and a nightgown on. She had approached no nearer than 25 feet from the bed when she saw that it was not her grandmother, but the wolf. For even in a nightcap, a wolf does not look any more like your grandmother than the Metro-Goldwyn-Lion looks like Donald Trump. So, the little girl took out an automatic pistol out of her basket and shot the wolf dead. The moral of this story is, it is not so easy to fool little girls nowadays.
Hello, little girls and little boys, and the few adults who are here. Welcome to the storytelling session that we are doing today. I'm going to read you a story by James Thurber. It's called A Very Proper Gander. Do you know what a gander is? Who knows what a gander is? Gander. Yeah, you know what a gander is? A male goose. That's right. You've heard of the word goose, have you? Yeah, you've seen geese around you. So a male version of a goose is a gander. Gander. So this is a story about a very proper gander. Not so very long ago, there was a very fine gander. He was strong and smooth and beautiful, and he spent most of his time singing to his wife and children. One day, someone who saw him strutting up and down in his yard and singing remarked, "There is a very proper gander." An old hen overheard this and told her husband about it that night in the roost. "I heard something. They said something about a proper gander," she said. I have always suspected that," said the rooster. And he went around the barnyard next day telling everyone that the very fine gander was a dangerous bird. Most likely a hawk in gander's clothing. A small brown hen remembered a time when, at a great distance, she had seen the gander talking with some hawks in the forest. Puck, 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 puck. They were up to no good, she said. A duck remembered that the gander had once told him he did not believe in anything. Quack! He said, to hell with the flag, said the duck. A guinea hen recalled that she had once seen somebody who looked very much like the gander throw something that looked a great deal like a bomb. Finally, everybody snatched up sticks and stones and descended on the gander's house. He was strutting in his front yard, singing to his wife and children. There he is, everybody cried. Hawk lover, unbeliever, flag hater, bomb thrower. So they set upon him and drove him out of the country. Moral: anybody who you or your wife thinks is going to overthrow the government by violence must be driven out of the country.
These stories were written in the sometime around the 1930s and by an American writer. It has nothing to do necessarily with India, but I'm sure you'll find the parallels. Because according to my understanding of literature, great literature is that which transcends the time in which it was written, that it applies to any age whatsoever, and that's what makes literature immortal. So now, we're done with the stories. We will now read you a poem called The Frog and the Nightingale. Now this is a poem about, it's a satire on show business, and it is a satire on artistic envy, which is a fact that many of us in the artistic profession have to deal with quite often, where we go out, where we hear of careers being destroyed because of this very quality that only human beings seem to possess. Animals don't. I don't think a robin is envious of a nightingale, but a frog probably is. So, The Frog and the Nightingale.
By Vikram Seth. Once upon a time, a frog croaked away in Bingle Bog. Every night from dusk to dawn he croaked
On and on and on.
Other creatures loathed his voice, but alas, they had no choice. And the crass cacophony blared out from the sumac tree, at whose foot the frog each night minstrelled on till morning light. Neither stones nor prayers nor sticks, insults or complaints or bricks stilled the frog's determination to display his heart's elation. But one night, a nightingale, in the moonlight cool and pale, perched upon the sumac tree, casting forth her melody.
Dumbstruck sat the gaping frog, and the whole admiring bog stared toward the sumac rapt, and when she had ended, clapped.
Ducks had swum and herons waded to her as she serenaded, and a solitary loon wept beneath the summer moon. Toads and teals and tiddlers, captured by her voice, cheered on, enraptured.
Bravo!
Bravo!
Too divine.
Too divine.
Encore! Encore!
And so the nightingale once more, quite unused to such applause, sang till night without a pause. Next night, when the nightingale shook her head and twitched her tail, closed an eye and fluffed a wing, and had cleared her throat to sing, she was startled by a
Croak.
"Sorry, was that you who spoke?" she inquired when the frog hopped towards her from the bog.
Yes, the frog replied. You see, I'm the frog who owns this tree. In this bog, I've long been known for my splendid baritone. And of course, I wield my pen for bog trumpet now and then.
Did you like my song?
Not too bad, but far too long. The technique was fine, of course, but it lacked a certain force.
Oh, the nightingale confessed, greatly flattered and impressed that a critic of such note had discussed her art and throat. I don't think the song's divine, but oh well, at least it's mine.
That's not much to boast about, said the heartless frog. Without proper training, such as I and few others can supply, you'll remain a mere beginner. But with me, you'll be a winner.
Dearest frog, the nightingale breathed, this is a fairy tale, and you are Mozart in disguise, come to earth before my eyes.
Well, I charge a modest fee.
Oh,
But it won't hurt, you'll see.
now the nightingale, inspired, flushed with confidence and fired with both art and adoration, sang and was a huge sensation. Animals for miles around flocked towards the magic sound.
And the frog, with great precision, counted heads and charged admission.
Though next morning it was raining, he began her vocal training. But I can't sing in this weather.
Come, my dear, we'll sing together. Just put on your scarf and sash. Ooh-ah. Quash, quash. So the frog and nightingale journeyed up and down the scale for 6 hours, till she was shivering and her voice was hoarse and quivering.
Though subdued and sleep deprived, in the night her throat revived, and the sumach tree was bowed with a breathless titled crowd.
Owl of Sandwich,
Duck of Kent,
Millard and Milady Trent,
Martin Cardinal Mephisto,
and the Coot of Monte Cristo.
ladies with tiaras glittering in the interval sat twittering.
And the frog observed them glitter with a joy both sweet and bitter.
Every day the frog who'd sold her songs for silver tried to scold her.
You must practice even longer, till your voice like mine grows stronger. In the second song last night, you got nervous in mid-flight. And my dear, lay on more trills. Audiences enjoy such frills. You must make your public happier. Give them something sharper, snappier. We must aim for better billings. You still owe me 60 shillings.
Day by day the nightingale grew more sorrowful and pale. Night on night her tired song zipped and trilled and bounced along, till the beasts and birds grew tired at a voice so uninspired.
And the ticket box office gross crashed, and she grew more morose, for her ears were now addicted to applause, quite unrestricted.
And to sing into the night all alone
gave no delight. Now the frog puffed up with rage. Brainless bird, you're on the stage. Use your wits and follow fashion. Puff your lungs out with your passion.
Trembling, terrified to fail, blind with tears, the nightingale heard him out in silence, tried, puffed up, burst a wail, and died.
Said the frog, I tried to teach her, but she was such a stupid creature. Far too nervous, far too tense, far too prone to influence. Well, poor bird, she should have known that your song must be your own. That's why I sing with panache. Coo-ah, quash, quash.
And the foghorn of the frog blared unrivaled through the bog. Okay, we have another poem we can do, but I'm not sure how interested you people are. Are you being able to hear us? Not the front guys. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people who we are trying to talk to, who are very busy talking to themselves. So can you hear us? Can you understand? Yes? No, I don't want the front people to say yes. You guys are too easy. Right? So should we do you another poem? No? Okay, we shall try. And this one's called The Louse and the Mosquito. You know what a louse is? Yes? What is it? A louse, in your hair, in the bed, you know, the one that bites you. What do you call it in Malayalam? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about though, right? And everyone knows what a mosquito is. Yes? No? Yes. Okay, so here's a story about a louse and a mosquito, but told in verse by Vikram Seth. In the king's bed, Creep the louse lived in her ancestral house. They had dwelt there as of right for 3 decades, and each night she and her enormous brood drank the king's blood for their food. Once the signal came from Creep that the king was fast asleep. Quietly, discreetly, they nipped and sipped and drank away. Sons and grandsons, sisters, brothers, great-granddaughters, great-grandmothers, second cousins and their wives, thus pursued their gentle lives, lives of undisturbed delight, growing plump and smooth and white. One day, a mosquito flew through the window. As he drew closer to the velvet bed canopied with gold, he said, "Lovely, just the place for me. Ah, what perfume! Let me see. Rose. No. Jasmine. And the quilt, smooth as banks of Ganges silt. Let me test the bed springs now." So he jumped up and somehow in a parabolic leap landed not too far from Creep. "Sir Mosquito, flap your wings. Leave at once. This bed's the king's." "Who may you be, Lady Louse?" "I'm the guardian of this house." "House? This quilt, it's mine," said Creep. "There's no place for you, Sir Leap. Let me sleep here for one night, and I'll catch the morning flight." Thus the sad mosquito pleaded, and at last his prayers were heeded. For the tender-hearted Creep could not bear to watch him weep. "Well, come in," she said at last. "But tonight you'll have to fast, for on no account may you bite him as we're trained to do. We can drink and cause no pain, loss of royal sleep or stain. You, I fear, would cause all three. I can't risk my family." But the glib mosquito cried, "Now you let me come inside, Lady Louse. How can you be cold in hospitality? Just one bite. I ask no more. For I've learned from learned law that the royal blood contains remedies for aches and pains. Ginger, honey, sugar, spice, cardamom, and all things nice. Save me, I'm in broken health. Let me bite him once by stealth. He won't even shift or sigh. Cross my heart and hope to die." Finally, the louse agreed. "Right," she said, "but pay close heed. Wait till wine, fatigue, or deep enriched, unbroken sleep has nipped him, enveloped him. Then go lightly nip his little toe." Yes, that's all old hat," said Sir Leap. "I know all that. Keep your stale advice," he smiled. "Seriously, I'm not a child." It was only afternoon, fairly early, fairly soon, when the king came in for a snooze, doffed his crown and shirt and shoes, lay down on the bed and sighed. The mosquito almost died from excitement, shock, and sweat. "No," the louse cried, "no, not yet." But too late. The self-willed bumbler, oh, if only he had been humbler, rushing to the rash attack, leapt upon the royal back, and with fierce and fiery sting, deeply dirked the dozing king. "Help! A scorpion! A snake!" screamed the king, at once awake. "I've been bitten, search the bed, find and strike the creature dead." When they made a close inspection, the mosquito foiled detection hidden in the canopy. But the louse clan could not flee. All were killed without ado. Meanwhile, the mosquito flew, looking out for further prey, humming mildly on his way.
Now, these are stories and poems. These are some of the stories and poems that we often perform as theatre. And many people wonder, is this theatre at all? And my answer is yes. Because to me, theatre is a means of communication. Theatre is not, as I understand it, a medium for showing grandeur and creating magic and creating illusions on the stage. It is a platform from which the person on it reaches out to the listeners, because there are things that words can do which even the most skillful actor in the world cannot present. I'm sure all of you, the grown-ups at least, and the children will discover as they grow up that the film of a book you've read never lives up to the book. And why is that? It's not because the filmmaker has any shortcomings. It's because the way a great writer can describe something, who can describe the way he can describe the waves in the sea, the way a great writer can describe the leaves that are fluttering in the wind, the way a great writer can, the words he uses to describe the searing sun or the chilling cold. This is not something which any film can achieve. The camera, the human eye can do anything that a camera can do. But the imagination of the viewer is something which we try to stimulate when we perform on stage, rather than to create a world for them to believe in. Because I don't think the audience ever forgets that they are in a theater. So it is futile, we have discovered over the years that we've been doing theater, to try to convince an audience that what they are seeing is actually happening. No, it's a fallacy to believe that. What we try to do is to remind them that you're in a theater. We are actors, you're an audience, I hope you're all comfortable. Now we're going to do a little play for you, and the play is called this. And we go ahead and perform the play. We interact with the audience. You may have heard of this thing called the fourth wall of the theater. There are 3 walls on a stage, and the 4th wall is supposed to be this, which is in front of the audience. I dismiss that as complete nonsense. I don't believe in a 4th wall. There is no 4th wall. There should be no 4th wall between the audience and the actors. The audience must be in direct contact with the actors, and that is why we have resorted most of the time now to performing stories on stage, telling stories on stage, or reciting poems on stage. And I think those can evoke what we're trying to say much better than actually showing it. And in fact, even in the plays that we do, we don't depend on elaborate sets and all that sort of thing. Because no matter how many details you put into a set, you can never make it look real. You'll find always in a realistic play where there's a drawing room or something, all the sofas are facing the audience. If there's a dining table, the people are always sitting facing the audience. The audience never believes this is actually happening, so why try to make them believe that? It's better to tell them that, look, we're trying to convey something to you, and we hope that it gets across, because as somebody said, realism has limits, but your imagination has none. And so we try and stimulate the imagination of the audience, which I think is perhaps the most valuable thing that we can do as theatre people.
Thank you for that wonderful performance. I'm sorry I'm not a kid anymore, but your stories actually took me back there. And I just had a question related to the stories actually, because you have the frog on the one hand who's trying to, so the nightingale is too, what do you call it, very docile and very, agreeing to whatever the frog is saying. So naive rather. And on the other hand, you have the louse family who gets totally destroyed because they are very accommodative of the, mosquito. So what advice would you give the kids in terms of handling, people? Because you meet both kinds. You meet the mosquito type and you meet the frog type as well. But you need to handle them both differently.
Yes. I don't know if you understood the question. Would you rather be like the mosquito or the louse? The louse is more accommodating, more willing to accept somebody coming from outside who seems to be in need and making them welcome. The mosquito, on the other hand, comes in, does what he has to do, and manages to get away, leaving behind destruction. Now, these are 2 kinds of personalities that we are seeing in the world around us today. Unfortunately, the mosquito personalities seem to be doing very well at the moment. The louse personalities are a little more subdued. But that's not always the case. I do not believe that. I do not believe you have to be a user like a mosquito to get ahead in life. And I would never be able to recommend that to a young person talking to me. Yes, the world may say that to that person, which is a sad thing. I hope your parents, at least, your teachers, are able to give children another perspective, which is not only one of competition, grabbing your what you want and getting ahead in life. But being able to do it as a community, all of us moving up together, which is what the Laos is doing. The whole family for centuries survives together. They help each other. They work in a systematic way without disturbing anyone so that they can survive comfortably. I personally would recommend that to a young person today because competition cannot go on the way it is and see us to a healthy, happy future. Competition will lead to destruction of our environment, of our society, of us as human beings. So I would recommend that the louse with her idea of a community is better than the mosquito with his individualistic bombing and getting away. That's my opinion.
And
I
the frog.
hope more people agree with me.
And how to handle the frogs.
Sorry?
How to handle the frogs. The nightingale and the frog.
Yeah, the frogs are all over the world. They know everything more than everyone else does. And they destroy as well. So, do we as a society want to support destruction or do we want to support creation and beauty? My own opinion, I'll go for creation and beauty every time. I will not go for destruction and this kind of personal glorification, which is what the frog shows so clearly.
Thank you so much. And I
Thank
do
you.
hope you...
And that was an excellent question. It made me think quite a lot.
I do hope you guys come back for more plays in, Calicut.
I hope so too. We'd love to come back.
Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, ma'am, and good morning, sir. So, I read your book when it was released, Naseeruddin Shah, sir. So, there, in the beginning, in the foreword, you have like very generously and sweetly called ma'am the jewel of your existence. So, I'd love to know what ma'am. Oh, okay. Hello, ma'am. Am I audible enough? Yeah. I was just mentioning that, ma'am, in the book, Naseeruddin Shah sir's book, autobiographical book, he has mentioned you as the jewel of his existence. The jewel of his existence. Yeah. So, so I'd love to know from you what you feel about him, ma'am.
Now that's asking. Yes, my name is Ratna, so that's an easy comparison, I'm sure. But Nasir, his name means helper in Arabic. And he is that, not only for me, but for many, many actors. He has helped us become better versions of ourselves. He has helped to clarify what acting is all about, to me particularly. And I have attended a lot of his workshops. I've listened to him for the last 50 years talking about acting. And I do feel that I stand on his shoulders and, use him as my base to go forward. So he has been a huge influence on me as an actor, of course, but even as a human being. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, for my part, I must say that if it had not been for this Ratna that I happened to find in the smog and filth of Mumbai city, I don't know what direction my life would have taken. So though I appreciate what she's saying, that I've helped, but she doesn't realize how much she has helped me.
No, but that's the foundation of a good relationship, whether a marriage or any other, that you stand together, that you complement what the other lacks or help enhance what the other has. And I hope all of us are able to build relationships like that, whether they are relationships of love or they are relationships of companionship, friendship within a family. I think that's very, very important that we listen to each other and we draw from each other.
Hello. Hi, Nasir sir. Hi, Ratna ma'am. It's a very pleasure to see you in person, just to hear your voice itself. So my question is that you told us about the fourth wall. So uh, about the comparison of a book and a film based on that. So I myself is along with the kids here and the children here is a beginner in that aspect. So what more could you tell upon that beginning to watch the theaters for the first time, so that we could understand better with the theaters rather than the films being made upon based upon a book or an aspect.
Could you just repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Okay. So you told that the
A book,
a
a film can never equal the book.
okay. So you said the theater could bring much essence to it, much essence to that sense rather than a film. So you were stressing on that point. A theater or a play based on that book, particular book, can much bring much effect than rather than a film.
Right.
So getting into a theater, to witnessing a theater or a play for the first time, what experience, what advice could you provide?
The advice I would give is that you must understand that theatre is not only a means of entertainment. Now, in fact, this is for the children. I'd like the children to pay attention to this. That where did theatre begin? This is a question that has often occurred to me. Who was the first person who stood up and said, "I'm a tree," or "I'm a cloud," or "I'm a rock," or "I'm a mountain"? And why? Not because he'd had too much toddy, but there was a purpose to it. This is a theory of which there is no evidence, but which sounds very possible to me. That in an age when humans had no language, had communication with each other only through sounds, the most important activity was hunting. So before setting out on the hunt, they would have to rehearse the hunt. So somebody became the deer, somebody became the hunter, somebody became the tiger, somebody became the monkey, somebody became the snake, somebody became the elephant. And they would plan how they would hunt the animal that they were after. Now, this perhaps was the first manifestation of theatre among humans. And it was done not for entertainment, but for communicating, where the same idea had to be communicated to all. And then, of course, gradually, somebody must have done the role of the lion better than the others, so he became the star. And he demanded 2 pounds of flesh instead of 1 for playing the lion, or somebody would play the deer better than the others. He was more graceful than the others. So it was always with an intention to communicate. Now, this has taken me quite a long time working in the theatre to understand this, that of course you must keep the audience engaged. I'm not knocking entertainment at all. If you want to keep a listener engaged, if you want a listener to absorb what you're saying, first of all, you have to hold his attention. So entertainment is definitely a part of it, but it's not the only thing. Stimulating the audience's imagination, to me, is the most important function that theatre creates, that theatre serves. And I don't know if you asked also, what about if a book is converted into a play? Now, that has often been done, but again, it seldom lives up to what the book is, because it is more difficult to read a play than to read a novel. I think all of you would know that and would agree with that. Now, why is that so? It's because reading a play puts more demands on you. You have to join the dots yourself. The play will only say an old man carrying an axe and a bundle of wood enters a hut where a little girl is sitting. That's all. Now, from the conversation and interaction that follows, you will begin to understand who this old man is and why he's coming into the hut and who the little girl is. But a novel will tell you all this. They'll say an old woodcutter who had been cutting wood all day had now finished his work, and now he loaded the wood on his shoulder, took his axe in his hand, and went to his hut where his little daughter was cooking a meal. So the theatre leaves things unsaid. And so, whereas a novel doesn't, a bit of prose doesn't. So it is also very tricky, I feel, to try to adapt a book into a play. The theatre has a different language. It has a language of its own. In fact, when I'm watching a play, which is very good, whatever language it may be in, I don't really need to understand what the people are saying, because what is happening on the stage conveys that to me. That's what I believe. I hope that answers your question.
Hello, my name is Tanu.
Hello.
So you said that you have been doing theatre for like 50 years and above. So I was thinking, like, what was your first theatre that you have ever done?
Okay, you're asking me?
Yes.
All right. The first play I ever did was a play called Mitti Ki Gaadi. It's a play based on a Sanskrit play, an old classical Sanskrit play called Mrichakatikam, written by a Sanskrit writer who lived in maybe the 3rd, 4th century AD by the name of Shudraka. So this play was translated into Hindi, and we did that. That was my first play. And after that, I've done many others in English, in Gujarati, and Hindustani. And I haven't stopped. I've enjoyed myself too much.
So
All
what
right,
about you, sir?
Yeah, let me add to that. See, I was a very poor student when I was in school. When I was in class, from class 7 onwards, I started having difficulties with mathematics. And then there was the nightmare of physics and chemistry and biology, none of which I could understand. And then I one day decided that I would do a play. For the first time in my life, I was 14 years old, and I got 2 or 3 friends together and we did a play. And everybody liked it. Everybody in the school liked it. And for the first time in my life, I felt acceptance. I felt approved of. I felt like I was liked. I felt like people were listening to me. And that is why, since the age of 14 to the age of 75, I have continued to do theatre, because theatre gave me everything that I have. And the funny part of it is that after I started doing plays, I improved in my studies as well. I got into the school cricket team. I got into the football team. My grades improved. My father thought I was studying hard. I wasn't. I was just doing what I was happy doing.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, doing what you really like to do and following it with passion. Not enough to just want to do it, but actually getting up and doing it and following it for a long time. Yeah, there's somebody else at the back. One of the children was raising their hands. Yep, yes, please. Can we get a mic across to that young man there?
Ma'am, may I?
Okay, yes, please. Just a minute, beta. We'll come back to you. Yes, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to express how grateful I am to stand in this venue and talk to 2 legends.
Thank you.
My question is, anyone with an eye could read a story. Anyone with an ear can listen to one. But it's not often that we find someone who can deliver a story very beautifully. So, how do we possess the talent or art of storytelling?
You must enjoy telling the story. it requires as much preparation as performing a play. I think the most precious memories that all of us have is lying in bed and listening to our mothers telling us fairy tales. I think all of us have very precious memories of that. And that is because the person telling the story was involved in the story because she was enjoying telling the story. So I don't think that any job can be done efficiently without a large dose of enjoyment. And that enjoyment comes only from preparation. And that's what I believe.
So hopefully we'll come back someday to your schools, hopefully, and perform for you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. We would love to do that. We would love to do that. I know how much I gained as a child in school when theatre companies from outside would come and perform for us. There was this particular this company called Shakespeareana, which did snippets from Shakespeare's plays, and the same plays which would put us to sleep in class transformed themselves into magic when they were done on the stage. Always remember that a play is written to be spoken, not to be read. And I look forward to coming back to the Kerala Literary Festival next year. This is the first time I've been invited. We'll be back next year.